Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the report card.
There's no audio.
Here in the 5 Point Arena here at Great Park Ice. There is audio, Eric.
We found it.
We found the audio. After we found you last time, you weren't on screen last time.
That's true. We get a little bit better each time, even though we're an hour and a half late. But other than that, everything seems to be going well.
We're excited to have everybody here for a very special edition of the report card. Can you believe it? Today, Eric, is the very last day of the 2019-2020 season for the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey.
Woo! It felt like it was a month long because we condensed the season this year. We started a little early, or started a little later and ended a little early. So we got all the games in. More games this year. Got them in a shorter time frame, and here we are. It's time for the postseason.
I'm so ready, but one of the really cool things that we got to do before the postseason was the All-Star Games. We're going to talk in detail about them in a little bit, but easily our best All-Star Games event of all time.
100%. It was the most fun we've ever had during the All-Star Games. We do have to put a disclaimer out there. The All-Star Games were 2 days ago. We had games played last night.
Yeah.
There was a game. The reason why we're a few minutes behind, there was a game. We had a broadcast. We have one set of equipment. We got to run everything over here. We had scorecards to prepare. Unfortunately, no time for video editing.
Yep, not even a little. Usually there's like 400 people doing this in the professionals. Yeah. We got just us.
We got
and the
two and a half.
And
two and a half between him running around, making sure the games are played on the ice, and helping, run the show. About 2.5 people to get this done.
What a time.
But we did it. We made it somehow.
We made it, and we're excited. So we are not going to have any type of highlights. We're just going to go straight to the scorecards and tell you about every single game that's happened in the last 2 weeks. And then we're going to highlight it with the All-Star Game scorecards as well. We're going to take a look at the first scorecard right here. Eric, the Spartans took on the Lancers, and, well, once again, it was Orange Lutheran doing Orange Lutheran things.
Yeah, it was. This was about a week and a half ago right here at 5 Point Arena. You see they played it on January the 29th, and it was a 4-0 Orange Lutheran win. Jackson Ferry doing Jackson Ferry things. He scored a couple of goals. Ethan Hurst helped out with a couple of assists. But you see the balanced scoring again. Coburn, Augustine, and Anthony all had a goal apiece. And a nice day for Roberts in between the pipes, stopping all 15 shots, getting the shutout to his credit. But you look at the other side, and the guy that we saw in the All-Star game do well, Louis Garcia, trying to keep Damien in as best he can. Stopped 33 of 37 in the loss. He's been a force to be reckoned with, and unfortunately he didn't get any offensive support this time around. But the Lancers win it, and they solidify that #1 seed as they have all season.
Man, give the guy credit. He's been, like you said, doing a lot of things, but unfortunately he is not able to get the win in that one. Head over to the next game. It was Tahoe Prep Academy taking on the Santa Margarita Eagles. That was here on, actually not in this facility. It was at the Great Park, but it was all the way over on Rink 1, Eric. And Tahoe Prep fell to Santa Margarita by the score of 5-1 for Santa Margarita. Who else but Aiden Casey? He's been running the show lately, been an absolute playmaker for the Eagles, and they are doing a great job so far. They solidified that second place finish no matter what. You can see Kim, Lowe, Platt all on the board. Platt had 2 assists. Sakurka, Yamasaki 15 of 16, didn't have to do much. Meanwhile, for the Tahoe Prep Academy, it was Liam Sutton getting a goal, and Brink 27 of 32 saves. He did all he could. Unfortunately, the Eagles were just a little bit too much.
Yeah, nice effort. This is the first time I ever got to see a game over on Rink 1, and I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a nice rink. You got the curling circles.
Everybody sometimes gets up in a tiff when they don't get to play at 5 Point Arena, but that rink is just as nice.
Well, and I know some of the teams don't necessarily love 5 Point Arena because their locker room is not close to 5 Point Arena.
That's true.
The Jay Serras of the world, the Santa Margaritas, they have locker rooms a little bit closer to Rink 3. So, yeah, but you got to see Rink 1. It was a good game. Meanwhile, at the same time, we had a game going up north at Solar for America.
Yeah, Jay Serra took on Bellarmine up there in San Jose. The Bells got the win in this one 4-3. This was back on January the 31st, and boy, did these two teams have themselves quite a weekend up in San Jose. You see there, Nolan Stewart had a couple of goals for Bellarmine in the victory. Galoni 21 of 24 in between the pipes. You see Martin with a goal and the assist there for Jay Serra. Again, balanced scoring for the Lions. Things haven't gone their way most of the time this season, but, the Lions right in the middle of the pack, still with a chance as we go to the postseason. As much as this was a great win for Bellarmine, the story really was the next day, it was that night, I think it was. No, it was the next day. It was the next day, on February the 1st. These two teams were scheduled to play a game over on that same sheet of ice. there was a power issue in the city of San Jose, especially in that block, and they had to cancel the game after the first 3 minutes of the first period. They just couldn't get the lights back on, and unfortunately with Jay Serra traveling all the way up north and Bellarmine not really able to get down here before the playoffs, they had to just go ahead and scrap that game entirely. It didn't mess with the standings a whole bunch. Each team, and this comes from the league office, has been credited 1 point apiece for standings purposes. However, Jay Serra will be credited with a win for the all-time record books. It is a 3-0 win officially, though just 1 point in the standings for both teams because of this. Lions get the victory just for record purposes because they were winning the game 3-0 in those first 3 minutes, and that was a big deal for them. But strange situation up in San Jose. They made it through. This was also a Caja game for state championship qualification. Unfortunately, both these teams have already been eliminated from state playoff contention, so they're not even going to count that one. It really doesn't make a difference. But Bells win this one 4-3. And they have themselves a pretty decent playoff position. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, and then you head over to the Capistrano United game, taking on the Damien Spartans, and it's been a tough year for Damien, and Capistrano United decided to just roll right through. I apologize, we've got a misspelling on the score sheet, as you can, or on the scorecard here. Ofsa has 2 F's, not 2 A's in his name. But it didn't matter how he was spelling his name. He had a goal and an assist in this one, leading the Coyotes. Stinari had another great game, Merrill Stinari. A goal and an assist for him. 3 assists for Jake Burnell. Meanwhile, Osala had a goal. Fields had a goal. And Zanke, a lot of work that night, Eric. 9 for 9 in the save department with the shutout. Meanwhile, George Gardner had 23 of 29 saves. Again, just doing what he can, but unfortunately not able to get the win in this one. Thought that was a blowout, and unfortunately for the next game, it was Tahoe taking on Orange Lutheran, Eric, and this one was just a little bit more.
Yeah, this is what the Lancers do. They can score in bunches, and Ethan Hurst sure showed that ability. 2 goals, 5 assists for the Lancers, and that one for Ethan Hurst, and then another 4 points added for Jackson Ferry. So as you see, he's got 4 goals in those last 2 games that we were just able to talk about. Anthony and Renton, a couple of assists each. Luke Gontus chipped in with a goal, and Roberts, 14 of 15 saves. Only had to play a couple of periods to pick up the win in that one. Proctor with a goal, the lone goal for Tahoe Prep Academy. Brink in net again, stopped 19 of 29. Buskey and Ward chipped in with an assist on that Proctor goal. But this was all about the Lancers. They put up another football score this season, something that they've done against Tahoe now twice this year.
I think one of the biggest points in this game that's not going to be on any scorecard, Caleb Martinez came into the game for the 3rd period. He didn't see a shot.
Wow.
The Lancers defense, even up 10-1, granted, it's a run-time game. Things are kind of moving a little bit quicker. The Lancers defense didn't stop playing and really supported their backup goaltender at that point. Meanwhile, Orange Lutheran also took on the Jay Serra Lions, and, well, another big scoring game for Orange Lutheran. Jackson Ferry had the hat trick along with an assist. Renton had 2 goals and an assist. Ethan Hurst had a goal and only 2 assists in this game. How dare he not have 5 assists in every single game. Tianchi Liu had a goal. Luke Gontus had a goal. And Roberts had a game of his own, 21 of 22 saves. Seeing a little bit more that he had to deal with. But this freshman has been fantastic this year, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a team that's firing on all cylinders. You see they score 18 goals in their last 2 games at that point. When they go into the playoffs, they're going to have that double bye. They're the number 1 seed. Santa Margarita gets that double bye as the number 2 seed as well. Going to be tough. Somebody's got to knock off Orange Lutheran, and if they're going to do it, they're probably already going to have played 2 games by the time they get to them.
Yeah, give a credit to Martin, who had a goal in that one, and then Mudd had the assist, and Height, 20 of 28 saves. Again, you're playing that Orange Lutheran offense. Kind of tough to stop.
Yeah, and then another game that took place over on February 7th. Bellarmine took on Pacific Ridge. This one over in the frozen tundra of the Olympic rink at the rinks at Anaheim Ice.
In my life.
Christian Hilton got to bring you that action on Black Dog Hockey. But as you see there, it's all Firebirds in this one. They win at 6-1. Ethan Kurt, a couple of goals and assists. And from what I understand, Ethan Kurt not interviewed during the All-Star game the other day.
He was not interviewed once by Chuck Lasik in the All-Star game, even though he thought he did.
It just didn't work out the way that we had hoped. But you see there Jack Cadgy with a goal and an assist. The Sheridans chipping in with a goal, and Silverman had one as well. Patty O'Donnell stopping all but one in the winning effort. Nolan Stewart, we've seen his picture on a lot of these cards here during this recap. He had a goal. Carrera and Carey with an assist on that goal as well. Servino stopped 16 of 22, but it's all Firebirds, 6-1.
I will say this, and you can check the footage as we come back here into 5 Point Arena. You watch that footage. Nolan Stewart's goal might have been the fastest shot I've ever seen in this league.
Is that right?
And Patrick O'Donnell had absolutely no chance at saving it. Meanwhile, we just had a game right behind us. Bellarmine took on Santa Margarita, and Eric, Bellarmine won that game, kind of putting them in a good spot for the standings.
Yeah, they win it 2-1. It was a tight one. Santa Margarita missing some guys. That game didn't really mean much for them in the standings, but it meant a whole lot for Bellarmine. There were hugs and cheers going on that bench once the time hit triple zeros. I thought I heard you on the air. Maybe I misheard you sing "Do You Know the Way to San Jose," because they are now in a position.
I'm not Chuck Lasik. I didn't sing that. Anyway, but
it saddened me.
Go on.
But they are now in a position to potentially host a playoff game at home in about a week and a half's time. So we'll see how the standings shape up. But they really needed that one, and they jumped themselves up high in the standings now to number 5.
Pretty exciting. Now, one date that we skipped in this, obviously we had the game yesterday that we highlighted between Pacific Ridge and Bellarmine, was 2 days ago. The 9th annual All-Star Games, at least 9th annual varsity All-Star game. There's a whole list of different annuals here. But the All-Star Games were taking place right here at 5 Point Arena. All the teams, as we had mentioned on the last episode, were named after different broadcast media or some sort of media for the Anaheim Ducks. The play-by-play and color broadcasters for both radio and TV, and then Kent French got in along with Phil Hewlett on that varsity game. And Phil Hewlett was kind enough to join us for the announcing as well. Altogether, Matt Blanchard and everyone, I mean, give credit to Austin Mader, give credit to Vicky Egger, put on an amazing event here. Wild Wing even showed up. It was a fantastic event.
Everybody was in the building. It was a great time. First time you were able to see the event live on YouTube on the ADHSHL channel.
Right here.
Yeah, that's
right where you're
watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, go ahead and do that. We're going to have more content coming on this year. Even though this is our last report card of the regular season, we'll have another one at the end of the playoffs, and then also we'll be able to do another one postseason. And then, of course, we'll be back next year. But the commish, who's the producer of the show, says we need to move on.
Says move on.
And stop giving him accolades for putting on a great event and start talking about the All-Star games more.
Anyway, in that first game, it was the Carroll game versus Carroll versus Wood in this one, as we highlighted the junior varsity, and it was a fantastic game. It was 6-5, the final score. Team Carroll beat Team Wood. Magdaleno got the game MVP. He had 2 goals in this one. Spradlin on the other side had a goal. Meanwhile, I mean, it's an all-star game, so there's a bunch of goals everywhere, Eric.
Yeah.
But some amazing talent from the JV side.
There was a lot of stuff going on in that game. First of all, you see Timothy Mayer there with the 2 goals. He found out he was going to be in the game the morning of the game, and he plays for San Diego Union. Got a phone call about 10 o'clock in the morning or so, was given word that he'd been selected to fill in for an injured player, and he comes up here, scores the first 2 goals for his team. Looked like he may have been in line to get an MVP, and then Wesley Magdaleno comes all the way from the IE and says, hold everything, and scores 2 late ones, the game-tying goal and the game-winning goal, and he snatches the MVP away from his San Diego Union counterpart.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game, and I was going to say, yeah, it's a game-tying and game-winning goal. That kind of earns you the game, the game MVP.
Stole that away.
And we thought we were going, man, how do you top this? How do you top this game? Then the varsity game happened, and we went straight to that as well.
Yeah, and take a look at this. You see Team Hewlett here winning 7-6. They were down for a good portion of this game before making a comeback, and Hewlett and French going after it on Twitter against each other, hoping the other would win the game. It turns out Phil Hewlett is the victor, and you see there Merrill Stinari was your game MVP, had a couple of goals. The Capistrano United forward getting it done. Josh Renton from Orange Lutheran with a couple of goals. Hartmark from Jay Serra with a goal. Lamatau there with a goal as well from North County. And then you see Stewart from Bellarmine was able to chip in on the other side. Aiden Casey continues his tear even into the All-Star game as he scores a pair and gets an assist. There was chatter that he was going to be the MVP had they won the game, but they weren't able to pull it off. And there you see the team photo with Phil Hewlett in the middle and the guys putting up the number 1 finger. Coach John LeBay from Capistrano United leading the way as Hewlett wins it 7-6.
That was my favorite thing possibly from the All-Star game, was that Phil was the one who orchestrated that photo.
Yeah,
he
did.
said he wanted a picture with his team, and I know that guys like Ken French, Steve Carroll, Dan Wood, John Ollers and Brian Hayward, as we get to them in just a few moments. They would have been here if they could. They had this little thing called an NHL team they had to kind of focus on.
Maybe next time.
But having Phil here taking that picture just really probably meant a lot to the kids, too, to see him really want to take that picture.
Yeah, and the great part with Phil, too, when he was announcing throughout the night, every time he had to say Team Hewlett, he would go, oh, wait, that's me. And he said it pretty much every time he was able to mention his name. But you're right. He's the one who orchestrated the photo. He wanted to be here. And I got to talk to him a few weeks ago and told him, hey, we're going to name a team after you in the All-Star game. And he said, really? And he pulls out his phone and he's like, let me see if I can be there. And he starts clearing space in his calendar. And thankfully, he was able to make it. And it was a good time there for that varsity game.
The very last game of the night has been a mainstay for the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League for, I believe, the last 4 years now. It was the senior game. As we take a look at the senior scorecard here, it was Team Ollers who came out on top against Team Hayward. Sean Keogh gets the nod as the game MVP. You don't really see him a lot now that we come to think about it in the regular season, but boy, did he show up for the All-Star game. He made 8 of 9 saves. If you haven't seen it, go on Twitter. Black Dog Hockey actually went and posted a great little game clip. You even retweeted it saying possibly the greatest thing that's ever happened in a I almost said NHL All-Star game, in an ADHSHL All-Star game. Sean Keogh told Chuck Lasik, I'm going to get 8 saves. And then he went out and he did it.
And he did it in spectacular fashion. He made a bet with Lasik during the broadcast saying, hey, if I get to 8 saves, you got to interview me again post-game. And he had 7 saves with about 30 seconds left. It was a scramble in front. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the highlight. If not, you can go to Black Dog Hockey's Twitter handle at BDE Hockey and see that the scramble in front, he falls down, shot comes through, he just throws his left arm up in the air and catches a piece of it. To get to number 8, he earns the interview, and Chuck had to hang his head in defeat as he talked to the game's MVP.
Which might have been the best part. But
yeah, I think that was the best part of the game. He didn't just show up, he showed out. He was jumping into interviews on the bench when Chuck was trying to talk to people, and he was making a whole bunch of gestures up to the press box down while he was playing in the game in that third period, and he certainly earned MVP honors in this one. His team wins at 6-5 in a shootout, no less. He's able to get the job done in that extra period.
Yeah, if you take a look at the rest of it, Chris Smales had 2 goals and an assist. Jackson Ferry, even when he's not the player of the game, the MVP, he's still finding 2 goals. Parizek, Bozanic, Pat's also listed there for Team Ollers. Over for Team Hayward, Jacob Posner, 2 goals and an assist. Meanwhile, Elijah O'Neill had a goal and 2 assists. You can see the rest of them down the line. Nguyen, Stinari, that was Joel Stinari. Merrill Stinari won the MVP in the varsity game. Joel got to participate in the senior game. Ethan Hurst and Smichkol also on the scorecard as well. As we bring it back here, Eric, like we had mentioned, the All-Star games were absolutely fantastic, but we've kind of reached the end of the regular season. It's time to start looking towards the playoffs.
Yeah, we have reached the end of the regular season. One thing I want to mention, too, about that last game, we saw Preston Patz up there. He had the game-winning shootout goal. We got to give Servite their credit where credit is due. Congratulations to him. Also, another player, too, from the varsity game, Jack Sapra from Damien. He was pretty great defensively. And I know his mom, who's good friends with a friend of mine, they got to chatting about the game, and they said, did you see the game? And I talked to my friend today, said, yeah, and Jack's mom, Sarah, was very excited at how Jack played. So if she's watching, thanks for tuning in, Sarah, and we're glad you could come out here to the game the other night. But you're right, we've reached the end of the regular season, and now it's time for the postseason. And as we speak, the Division I bracket is not completely set. There are 2 seeds that are still not quite in stone, and it actually could change some things. We mentioned a little bit ago that Bellarmine could host a playoff game for the first time in Division I history. We could have a playoff game outside of Southern California, but it's all going to depend on what Damien's able to do in their final regular season game. If they win in regulation, they're going to jump up, and the Southern California teams, according to the league, will not be made to travel up north. If Damien doesn't win that game and stays behind Tahoe, we're going to see Bellarmine-Tahoe in the 5-8 matchup, and those 2 teams will not be made to come down here for a first-round game, and they're going to play up in San Jose. We could see our first playoff game up north in D1.
That's got to be nice for them, not having to get on the bus to come all the way down here just to play each other.
And tentatively, if Damien wins and it ends up being Bellarmine-Damien, that game will be played in the first round here in Irvine on February the 18th. If not, the game will probably be played February 11th or 12th, somewhere in that time frame, so they can get the game up there, give them enough time to travel down so they don't have to play a game, travel overnight to play the next day in the quarterfinals. So we'll see how it all shapes up. But for the most part, this bracket looks like it's shaping up.
Yeah, that's why we don't actually have the bracket set on here, is because we didn't know what they were going to look like 5 minutes ago.
I'm going to read it off the paper because we just figured this out literally 5 minutes before we came on the air. But we'll start off with the first round. We talked about Bellarmine. They're going to be locked in for that 5 seed. They're going to play Tahoe or Damien, depending on the result of the Damien's last regular season game down in Carlsbad tonight against Pacific Ridge. The 4 versus 9 game, which will be played here at 5 Point Arena on February the 18th at 6:20. Pacific Ridge will be the host. They will play Damien or Tahoe, depending on what happens. So if Pacific Ridge beats Damien, they're going to play Damien in the first round.
Yep.
And if they lose, they avoid the Spartans, if you will. The 7-6 game is a lock. J. Cerro will technically be the road team at St. Mary's, a game that will be played here in Anaheim. That game will be over on the NHL ice on February the 18th. I'm being told now that that location could change, and I'd imagine it could change depending on what happens with Bellarmine's situation and possibly hosting a game up north. We'll see about that. The number 3 seed is Capistrano United. They locked it down a few days ago. Their quarterfinal game will be on February the 19th here at 5 Point Arena. The semifinals, we know Orange Lutheran's number 1, Santa Margarita's number 2. They have the buys, the double buys, all the way to the semis. Semis are February the 21st. It is a Friday night, 4:10 and 6:20 respectively on the sheet of ice right behind us, with the Shillman Cup final on February the 22nd at 4:15 p.m. It is the second of the 3 varsity championship games that day.
Yeah, the bracket just changed because of that last game.
Yes.
Bellarmine winning gets them that 3 points plus that extra point from the J. Sarah Bellarmine power outage game is what I'm going to remember it as. Pushes them to a tie with St. Mary's.
Yep.
Poor St. Mary's went from the 3 seed, dropped all the way down to the 6 seed. That's where they're going to sit. They've been idle since the first weekend of the year.
So the strange thing about all that is with them jumping over St. Mary's, had that not happened, St. Mary's would be playing Tahoe, most likely, depending on results later on today. And that game would have been up north anyway. So either way, we could have had a game up north no matter what the scenarios were.
Yep, just okay, which rink are we going to play it at this time? But we're really excited. The ADHSHL 2020 playoffs are on their way. There's even more stuff to talk about. Division 2, Division 3, JV playoffs are coming. We only got a 30-minute show. We don't have time to really cram everything in. But like we saw in the All-Star games, the JV is filled with talent that we don't always get to see. We never see Division 3 teams. We rarely see Division 3 and Division 2 when it's between games here in Division 1. Every single one of these divisions has been fantastic throughout this 2019-2020 season. Talk about a year of growth just internally.
Right.
This league's getting better and better.
Well, you talk about the league getting better and how the league is growing internally. The D2 and D3 brackets are nowhere near set yet. There's a lot of teams who've clinched spots and can't move up or down. But there's still a lot of matchups yet to be determined, and that's all going to depend on the game results from today. JV is the same way. We saw the JV All-Star game the other day, talked to the coaches on the benches during the broadcast, and we were able to find out that those kids, they're going to be playing varsity next year.
Yep.
And we're going to see this talent just start to come up from the younger ranks and make this league even better and better as the years go on. Don't turn your heads. This thing is going to be more competitive as the years go on. We already know that the league is going to expand next year. We've got a couple of schools that were interested, show interest. They're going to join. Just more competition. And we'll see what the 2020-2021 season brings.
2020-2021. Can't wait for that.
Can't
wait to see what our schedules look like for that, too, because you add more teams into this league, that means you and I have to be other places, and possibly more places than once. We'll see how it goes.
That does bring up one note. That does bring up one point about the postseason. Don't forget, when the playoffs begin, you'll be able to watch all of the semifinals from all 3 varsity divisions live on Black Dog Hockey whenever they are scheduled, and the entire varsity Division 1 playoff bracket will be streamed live on Black Dog Hockey as well. You can go to bdehockey.com for more information. As soon as all the games are set, you'll be able to see the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League playoff coverage on the network. So it'll be a lot of fun when it comes around. And I'm imagining while we have this show and then we have our end of the year playoff recap, we got to do a summer show again.
Yep, and the commissioner is trying to make sure we mention this on air. Watching Chuck Lasik trip was so good that we decided we're going to take the show back to Vegas again.
We have to.
Where else would we do a summer meeting?
Are we allowed to say where in Vegas?
I don't think so.
He's staring at me. He's saying, no, don't say it yet. All right, we're going to save that reveal for later.
We're going to try to get to City National again. We'll see if they let us in the door. Because we almost killed people last time by tripping.
LASIK, yeah.
But we actually do have somewhat of an idea where it's going to be. We're just not allowed to quite reveal that yet. We're really excited. We're already thinking about next year, and I know the league's already thinking about next year. There's meetings in place for a couple weeks from now talking about next year's Vegas Showcase. We already know the dates for that, but there might be more games than we did this year. And the Vegas Showcase, as it continues to grow, reflects how this league is growing. Southern California hockey and really West Coast hockey is growing at a rapid pace, and we just got to all buckle up and hope that we don't lose our keys.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I don't know how we're going to keep everything straight next year, but we've done a great job up to this point, so I guess we'll just keep the train going. There's really not much else we can do.
2019-2020 ADHSHL season is almost in the books. We have a couple more games tonight, but for the regular season, this is it. The report card is wrapping up. A big thank you to everyone who's helped out with us all season long. Austin Mader, our director of operations, unfortunately not able to be here today, but he's been a massive help in the show. After I took over being hosting, you've been able to come back and host a number of shows. It's been a fantastic year. Chuck LASIK obviously has been here for a number of them. I like the way the report card's growing too. We seem to be getting better on the report card, adding more highlights. Sub today. We don't have all the time in the world, people, but
we can set up a show very well. We just can't time it very well. We need to work on that. Scheduling will take care of that. We're
gonna pitch a time and then just assume we're gonna start 15 minutes later next time. I think.
We were on time a few times this year. Just a couple games ran long. We had to move all the equipment. About, what is that? I'm not good at calculating feet, but
there's that many feet. There's a lot.
It's about the length of half a football field, I'd say.
I think that's a buzzer. I think we got to go.
Sounds good to me.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Report Card. As always, thanks to Art Trottier from the Anaheim Ducks. A big thank you to our commissioner of the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League and our technical director and producer, Matt Blanchard, for everything that he helps with. Again, thanks to Austin and Chuck LASIK for joining us throughout the season. Austin did that great interview with us, too, so he's been both on the camera and off the camera this year. And a big thanks to Eric Pesolano on behalf of everyone, and Andy Dickerson, who lets us use all of his equipment. It's been a pleasure bringing you the report card this year. We've got a playoffs recap coming up. We'll get you the dates on that. Nothing like that is set in stone yet. But it's been a pleasure being your hosts for this year. On behalf of everyone, I'm Christian Hilton saying thank you for joining the report card this season. We'll see you after the playoffs, everybody. Oh, my goodness. The playoffs are coming. You've been watching the report card right here on the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time.